Back in 2020, then President Donald Trump tried to ban TikTok via executive order, which the courts quickly told him he could not do. But in the last week, Donald Trump has done a 180.
There are a lot of people on TikTok that love it. There are a lot of young kids on TikTok who will go crazy without it. There are a lot of users. There's, a lot of good.
A lot of good. Why the change of heart, Donald Trump? Two reasons. The first appears to be cash. Trump recently hosted Jeff Yass at his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida. Yass is a billionaire investor in ByteDance, which is the parent company of TikTok, and Trump is seeking his support in the presidential race. Maybe don't upset the billionaire TikTok investor if you want his money. The second reason is voters. Trump ally Kellyanne Conway has been advocating for TikTok on behalf of the Club for Growth. That's the conservative organization where, it so happens, billionaire Jeff Yass puts a lot of his money. And Ms. Conway lobbied Trump by arguing that his supporters, especially the younger ones, like TikTok.
Here are 3 reasons why, if you're a young person like me, you should vote for Trump.
We like Trump because he actually stood up to you and also exposed you. You want socialism. We don't.
Please 4 more years, please 4 more years. Please 4 more years, please 4 more years.
But Donald Trump and his party are not the only ones defending TikTok. Some House Democrats voted against the ban today. And while they may not share Donald Trump's reasons or motivations, they too think banning TikTok is a very bad idea. Joining me now is one of those House Democrats, Congressman Jamal Bowman of New York. Congressman Bowman, thank you for being here.
Good to be with you.
I'm sorry that you had to witness some of those TikTok videos. I apologize to our viewers at home as well. But first, tell me why you voted against the TikTok ban.
Well, once again, Congress is trying to shove a bill down our throats within just a few days. Oh, we're going to ban TikTok. You got to vote for it right now. Let's hurry up and get this done. So first of all, it's moving too quickly. Secondly, trying to get ByteDance to sell within 160 days or 180 days is unreasonable, completely unreasonable. Third, free speech. There are people who use TikTok to, they have small businesses on TikTok. They use it to build community. So it's a free speech issue. And fourth, when are we going to have a comprehensive conversation about all of social media and all of the problems on social media, including our data being sold on the open market to China and other nations without our consent, without our knowledge? So we need to talk about privacy. We need to talk about mental health. We need to talk about all of social media. Why do we continue to scapegoat TikTok, especially when I haven't seen any evidence or not enough evidence to tell me that it's a national security issue? And so that's why I voted no on the bill.
I do want to talk about the sort of the social media aspect, the user realities, the political implications of taking away the platform that hundreds of millions of people, 170 million Americans, the youngs are all over it. And it is the primary
it's like
channel.
Half the country.
Yeah. I mean, it's the primary channel for communication with America's youth. As a Democrat and someone who seeks re-election, as someone who's heading into a big election year, what do you think the implications of just basically taking down TikTok would be?
It doesn't make sense to me. Young voters already feel disenfranchised because we do a horrible job of reaching out to young voters, connecting with them, engaging them, and listening to them. TikTok is actually a platform where young voters have found community with each other, and they're learning a lot more about politics. They're learning more about their elected officials, votes their elected officials have taken, what we all stand for, and they're sharing information, whether it's related to foreign policy, domestic policy, childcare, education, whatever the issues are. So they are literally building their own community and building their own political power. Why are we then going to disenfranchise them even further, especially when young voters have a tendency to vote Democrat if we go about engaging them and doing it the right way? So having this discussion and trying to ban it or almost ban it makes no sense at this time.
Yeah, I mean, we look at the numbers of, the latest polling, the head-to-head matchups between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Young voters under 35, Biden leads 52-48. That's a 4-point lead. The margin of error is 3 points. We are talking about young people here. This is a group that has recently been overwhelmingly in support of the Democratic Party and its platforms. That's I think probably for Democrats, an uncomfortably narrow margin. And then you talk about the Democratic support in communities of color among Black voters, Hispanic voters, Latino voters, many of whom are not going to traditional media for their news and information. That's a staggering curve
right.
downwards. And I wonder, how essential platforms, including social media, are going to be in this election to bringing those folks back in the fold and telling the story of Democrats in the White House.
And I think that's why you saw such a diverse representation of who voted no on this bill. It wasn't just a squad. It was moderate and more conservative Democrats. I mean, we had the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee vote no on this particular bill. So you have these diverse responses to this because we understand the implications politically, socially, and in terms of our entire country. And so we need young voters. We need young voters of color. We need to engage them as much as possible. We need to not disenfranchise them, and we need to respect their voices and how they're engaging. They're all over social media. They're not watching MSNBC as much as we would like them to.
But they're welcome to, Congressman.
But they're welcome to, but they're not. They're on social media. They're on TikTok. How are we using TikTok to engage them? And listen, let me just say this one other thing. Our biggest issue when it comes to national security is ourselves. We hurt ourselves more because we ignore the needs of the American people. You push through a TikTok ban, but you're not doing nothing on foreign policy aid, well, not enough. You're not doing nothing on affordable housing. You're not doing enough on childcare. You're not doing nothing on the issues that Americans care about quickly. We can never turn the corner on those issues.
Let me ask you, you said that you've not been given any hard evidence or sufficient evidence that this is a real national security threat, any more than any other social media is a national security threat. Do you at all worry, though, about the memification of American politics, that's what we're sort of acquiescing to, that it's like anybody can put up their content and hopefully the truthful stuff rises to the top and goes most viral? But, it's a bettor's game.
Yes, I am. TikTok is way better at that than Twitter, than Facebook, and then some of the other platforms. So I am worried about the bite-size memification, headline nature of how social media operates. But what I've seen on TikTok is the depth of content and the depth of scholarship exists there that I haven't seen on the other platforms. Twitter right now is a cesspool. I mean, you go on there, you send out a tweet, next thing you know, you have the far right, white nationalists attacking you for all kinds of nonsense and lies and disinformation, misinformation live on that platform and Facebook. Facebook also, and I've been told this, China uses Facebook to get more of our data than anywhere else by far. But we're not talking about banning Facebook. And Facebook was implicated in what Russia did in 2016. So what are we talking about?
Well, obviously there needs to be a broader and more transparent conversation. And in the meantime, enjoy learning the steps to the Beyonce video, Texas Hold'em, because it's all over TikTok. And that's how I spent part of my time preparing for the show. Congressman Jamal Bowman, thank you so much for your time and thoughts. Really great to have you here.
Of course.